And we're live, Jane.
Okay, good morning, everybody. This is the Human Resources, Administration and Public Relations Committee meeting of August the 25th. All of our councillors and our CAO and work superintendent, and I believe deputy CAO are present. I would like to call the meeting to order, please. Before we continue, are there any additions or amendments to the agenda as printed and sent out? Does anybody have any amendments? Okay, can I have a call for someone to adopt the agenda, please?
I'll move it.
Okay, that's Councillor Harper to adopt and to second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Schaller. Before we continue, does anybody need to disclose any pecuniary interest in any of the issues that we have on our agenda? None noted. Okay, moving swiftly on to any unfinished business. This would be stuff from our previous HR and admin committee meeting. Is there any unfinished business? None noted here. And let's move on to our quite lengthy list of new business, please. First on the agenda there is budget and financial control policy. Can I hand that over to you, Brian, to run us through that, please?
Yes, I'm just questioning. Are you seeing my screen? No?
Yes. No, I've got beautiful
Okay.
northern lights.
You're okay. Well, I wasn't sure if you were seeing the agenda or not.
No.
Okay. So the budget and policy is just, we haven't had one up till now that established guidelines for staff as to how we're going to manage, implement, create the budget, when it's going to be brought forward, as well as a number of financial controls that we thought were important to identify as a standard policy, so that going forward, we had some guidelines as to what should be expected of us. So if there's any questions with respect to the policy, I certainly be happy to answer them.
Does anybody have any questions for Brian regarding this?
Could we go to page 13? Or, yeah, page 8, I guess it is, number 13.
Page 8. Can you put that up for everybody to see, please, Brian?
I'm just trying to figure out why it's not showing here. Give me 1 second, I apologize.
What part of page 8? Number 13, did you say?
That's correct.
Okay, that should do it, I think. So number 13 speaks about summary of changes to the approved amount in accordance with section 12.
Yes, I'm wondering, I had a question here or something that says summary of changes quarterly.
That's to provide a variance report quarterly to council.
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay. I fully understand that.
So anything that was changed in accordance with section 12 above, you know, if there was a change in a line item specifically, anything that falls within this allocation of section 12 would then be reported as a part of a variance report on a quarterly basis to council.
Okay. Okay. Disregard then. It's all. I can't recall what my question about it was, but anyway, we'll just move forward. Thank you. Sorry.
Right, thank you, Richard. Does anybody
Okay,
else have
okay.
any? Does anybody else have any budget questions?
At page 14 and 33, I believe I have wrote down here. Yes, I see a 33.
33?
Yes. Right there. It's that's the way I understood this, and if you could clarify, is it accumulated? It seems like each project could be overspent by $100,000 prior to us being
No,
is that correct?
no, the intent here, this gives, if a project's budgeted up to 100,000, then an approval could be done, in this case, of up to 5,000. If the project was 25,000, then it's 5%. So anything that's between 25 and 100,000 is 5% is the maximum that would be able to be approved, but we would have to figure out where that money was coming from and report back as part of the reporting process. But no, we wouldn't have the ability to, carte blanche, put another $100,000 to the budget on a project without approval of council.
Okay, I guess I took it at 25,000.
Yes.
Your office could approve 25,000 or up to
5%.
25,000 for for a project budgeted over $100,000. You could approve an over expenditure.
Up to 5% is the maximum.
Okay.
That's the threshold, right? Is whatever's less, $25,000 or 5% of whatever the project is a maximum.
Okay. I guess my concern was if we had 4 projects, for example.
Yeah.
And they were all 100, just over the 100,000. We could really approve 25,000 in each, which would run us $100,000. Is that correct?
No, we could only approve a maximum on a $100,000 project of 5% of the project.
Okay. Thanks. Appreciate it. Makes me feel better.
Yeah.
Thank you, Richard, for that.
One at page 15. Page 15, number 39. Oh, okay. You've answered that last night in Bongo's.
Yes, I did.
Yes. Okay. Thanks.
Sorry, what was the question? Sorry. For those
it was about consumer price index and.
Is it okay if I just jump in here?
Yes, please. I think for those listening on YouTube, please do.
Super. So I did ask Brian a question yesterday, simply just to clarify number 39, because when you see the percentage 75 and 125%, it's like, what? Brian, I was wondering, you did a great job of explaining it through email. I was wondering if for the viewers that might be out there watching us on YouTube, if you can just summarize what number 39 means.
Yeah, so basically when staff are setting tax rate budgets for the purposes of the tax rate, what we'll give consideration to is the consumer price index at a specified period in time. In this case, we've used the example of July 31st of 2021, whatever the CPI was for that. So if it was 2%, was CPI for that month. We would then use that as our calculation, and we would have a low range of 75% of that 2%, or a high range of 125% of that 2% when we calculate the total tax requirement for the budget purposes to bring forward to council. That's not to say that council can't bring it down or bring it up, but as staff, we would work within that range.
Okay, super. That's thank you so much for that explanation.
Okay, in addition to that, I'm just wondering if the shall should be may, because if we're considering that we're dealing with a lot of inflation in property taxes, and I'm not sure where assessment's how it's going to follow or how quickly. And we could, we've been fortunate, I think, over the past with our, due to new construction and possibly an increase in the past in assessment of how much we've had to change our mill rate. So I guess in saying that, if our assessment, if there was to be a reassessment across our township, we may not, and that's why I'm suggesting we put the word may be there. The tax rate increase may be within the range, okay, rather than shall be. That we, because we could actually receive an amount of dollars necessary to operate the township for a couple of years based on an increase in assessment. So that's why I'm just wondering if may shouldn't be there rather than shall.
I think just to speak to that, I think council, the intent from this policy was simply to give staff a range within which to work as it related to preparing the annualized budget forecast, bringing it forward to council. There's nothing preventing council from making adjustments to that, of course. It was just to give us a guideline within which to maintain so that we didn't, come to council expecting 5 or 6% when CPI is only at 1%. It was strictly a guide for us as staff in the preparation of the budget process to bring forward to council for further consideration. That said, I do understand the change in reassessment and how that may affect, but I would think that a bit of common sense, even at the staff level, would result in us bringing a lower range to council, knowing that we just saw a 5% increase as a result of reassessment or something. I think that this was more in our normal operational period. COVID certainly made changes to the valuation of properties at a substantiated rate, which may adversely affect the returned role in the not so distant future. But certainly if there's a desire to change it from shall to may, I was just trying to prevent the possibility of bringing a 200% adjustment into council as a starting point.
It's thanks. I appreciate that, but it's just that I just want to remember our roots here, and there's many of our residents that have spent their entire life here that are seniors especially, and don't have a corporate pension. And I'm just thinking of them, and if they were to read that, they may feel more comfortable with the word may there rather than shall. Anyway, I'm not sure what the rest of council thinks.
I personally, I believe we should be aware of the consumer price index and take that into our calculations most definitely. So I think possibly may would be a better way of addressing this than should, personally. But I think we need to have something that we can use if we need to. And I think the CPI is a good starting block. In a few years ago, MPAC came in and actually the costs went down. Property values actually went down. But we didn't, the property tax and our calculations left things pretty much as they were. So that year, the township actually had less money per capita to deal with than more money. So I think may would be a better word to put in there other than should or shall. That's my personal opinion. Jane, Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with Richard, and I agree with you in regards to using the CPI. I go to meetings and I have individuals that leverage their request as being high-paying taxpayers in the township of South Algonquin. And I usually respond that, yes, I consider them, but I also consider the widower who has lived in South Algonquin all their life and maybe only get, old age pensions. So I think the May gives us, as Brian has responded, as Richard has advocated, and your points as well, gives us the process to look at it, and then the flexibility to decide what's appropriate for all the taxpayers in the township of South Algonquin.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you. Does anybody else have anything else to add to this issue? And thank you for bringing that forward, Richard. Councillor Bongo, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Brian, thank you so much for bringing this policy forward. As Chief of Staff, do you believe that this will strengthen the township's budgeting procedures?
Absolutely, Councillor Bongo. I believe that it's important for staff to have appropriate policies and guidelines. We need to figure out the tools to implement those policy decisions, but certainly we need the appropriate guidelines to ensure that what we're doing is being done in accordance with what the expectation is from the elected officials in the community. And certainly it will allow us, as noted in here, the intention is that by the 15th of September, staff will have their budgets to meet, which hopefully will allow us to bring forward and have had significant debate on the budget prior to the hunting season.
Super.
Okay, so is everybody else happy with what they've read and the finer points then been explained? And obviously that is a draft policy at the moment, but thank you very much for that, Brian. And I think the 15th of September to start working with the budget, I think is very, very sensible in this day and age to actually get that budget up and running as soon as possible to stop us being strangled by ourselves. So thank you. Okay, let's move on to the second point there. Delegation of authority bylaw.
Just a second.
Sorry.
Page 56.
You have more. Okay, sorry.
I'm sorry.
I did ask. Page 56.
Yes.
56.
Oop.
Are we in the HR policies now?
Well, that was, I don't know, did we jump ahead of that, or are we behind, or am I jumping too far ahead, or
Yes.
did we skip over this?
We haven't got there.
We haven't got to the HR policy yet, Richard.
Okay.
If you look at your agenda, we have.
Yes, I just read through this whole amount of the work, and I certainly say thank you, Brian, for the amount of work and effort you put into this. But when I read through it, I didn't have a hard copy. I thought about it, and I thought if everybody asked for 200 pages to be printed, I thought that's a lot of work in our office for our staff. And so anyway, I'm just trying to do the best I can here. But when I went through it, I just went by page by page by page. And that's anyway, if I'm jumping ahead, I'll wait till we get to page 56.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, thank you, Richard. The next item we have on the agenda is the delegation of authority bylaw. And you have that up in front of us now. Please, Brian. Okay. And can you talk us through that one, please?
Yeah, so the delegation of authority bylaw really just clarifies the roles and responsibilities of staff, the levels of authority of the staff, and in many cases, you'll notice there's a legislative authority, and where there's not a legislative authority, oftentimes there's a bylaw that provides that legislative authority. I'm a pretty firm believer that council establishes the policy, and although the Municipal Act and other pieces of legislation give me specific authorities and give staff specific authorities in their roles, I'm a firm believer that I should not act on those authorities unless council's given me the direction to do so. And as such, I've created the delegation of authorities, powers and duties of staff, specific to who does what, who has what authority, and the limit of that authority, just to clearly identify for everybody exactly who does what and why. So if there's any questions specific to this, I'm certainly willing to entertain and answer them.
Thank you, Brian. Obviously, I've read through all of this. Nothing seems to leap out of the page to me as to being anything contentious. Does anybody else have any views on any of those delegated authorities that we bestow on our CAO?
All made sense to me.
Jane, I see you have a question
yes.
here.
No, just a comment. It's just the delegation, and I'm sure, I know you are aware of that, but just for people maybe checking in, is delegation to the CAO, clerk treasurer, or to department heads, etc. So it broadens the scope a little bit, or identifies what individuals within the corporation can do. Although I may be wrong, Brian, I'm just looking through this and I see the deputy treasurer has things that they can do delegated to them. So
as well as the plan, there's some sections for the CBO, the planner, as well as the fire chief and the public works superintendent.
So I agree with you, Chair. That it's good to have them, and it just provides clarity to each individual. Thank you.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions for Brian or any other of the delegated individuals that we have in that list there regarding the things that they can go ahead and do without council's, not so much input, but without council's authority? Okay, none noted. And then we move on to the procurement policy. And procurement is always a difficult one to handle because money is being spent and people are being employed to do certain things. So I think to have procurement policy laid out in the way that we have, I think is a safeguard for any heads of department and obviously the CAO himself. So Brian, can you just briefly talk us through that one?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the things that was identified as part of KPMG's review was the procurement policy and some deficiencies in what we did and how we did it and how it lined up to the procurement policy. I think the procurement policy itself was a bit dated, so it was due in time for a refresh on it. And really, the purpose, I think, speaks very clearly. It's to provide a process for the most efficient and effective use of municipal funds consistent with the required quantity and quality of the goods and services. It ensures that there's an open and competitive bidding process for acquisition and disposal of our properties and services. And the objectives are equitable treatment of all vendors. So I think the purpose statements here really clarify what it is we're doing and why we're doing this. And I think it's more in line with the practices of the staff. So I'm a believer if the policy isn't working, either we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing or we need to fix what the policy says. So I think the policy now comes in line more with what KPMG was alluding to. So all of senior staff have reviewed this, and any comments that I've had, for the most part, were incorporated into the document as it was being prepared for council. Mayor Dumas?
Oh, sorry. Yes, I'm very happy to see in number 2E that, contracts will be viewed under the optics of purchase of environmentally responsible goods and services. I think as a municipality, we have to continue to work to as we are all challenged as individuals and as municipal representatives, be cognizant of the fact that our environment is finite in some effect, and we should do as much as we can to stay with environmentally responsible goods and services. So I'm pleased to see that update there. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Myself included with that. Our solid waste and disposal is a little bit archaic, but that's what we have. So we have to work with it the best we can. Does anybody else have any questions here for procurement?
I just have a quick comment, and that's thank you for submitting this policy. As the document describes, this promotes openness, accountability, and transparency, and all of those things are very important for the township. So I'm very excited to accept this policy.
Thank you, Councillor Bongo. Anybody else? Okay, now we move on to the big boy in the meeting, the HR policy. And the HR policy was a task, a huge task for Brian to undertake here, and one obviously very, very important to have all of the issues in HR actually put into one policy. Very, very important, right through from payroll admin to pre-employment screening, public holidays, statutory holidays, etc. Brian, I'm not going to ask you to go through all of that because we've all had it for a number of days, if not a couple of weeks, to read through. But is there anything that you feel needs an extra explanation?
I think the policies are fairly straightforward. In any case that we already had policies, we did try and roll those in. Now, there were some updates to a number of those policies as it relates to meeting legislative changes that may have occurred since the policy was originally created. But overall, I think they're very common policies that are in place. And there's really not a whole lot in here that's out of the ordinary. And it really, for the most part, reflects how the municipality operates in the first place. So, I mean, I'm certainly open to any questions and comments with respect to it. It is a very large document, and I do have to hope that I don't have to bring too many more of these great big documents to you, because I do know you've spent a lot of time and effort reviewing these documents, and being able to be comfortable that you've got the answers you need to implement any of the policy that's been brought forward.
I just have a small question. Brian, thank you so much for this document. Although it's huge, it's so valuable to have. Before the creation of this document, was it a case where the township had all of these different HR policies in different documents, and you compiled them all in one document? Is that how this policy came to be?
No, actually, there's a number of these that we did not have formal policies. We had practice, but in a lot of cases there were no formal written policies. I think there was about a half a dozen or so that we actually had formal policies that were written down that we were able to update. The balance of it really is very much thanks to council moving forward with HR downloads. They had a lot of standardized stuff in there that we could just remanipulate into our needs that already meets all of the legislative requirements. So we didn't have to go back and review all of the legislative requirements as we created the policies, because they already met those requirements. And then we just tweaked them to meet the needs of our own organization and the practices of the organization. So all of the senior staff have had a chance to review this. It hasn't gone out to staff in general, but everybody in the office has certainly had time to review this, had time to make comment on it. And again, where staff had comments or questions, we endeavored to incorporate some of those comments in, specifically if they were practices that we were currently utilizing that maybe being new I was unaware of. So really a lot of this framework, though, was a direct result of the HR downloads and, of course, all of our mandatory staff training, which council has all taken time to undertake, is also part of that. So I have to say thank you very much, because this really saved me probably hundreds of hours of writing and research, and by simply being able to manipulate some information from other places. It still was a lot of effort, but certainly nowhere near the effort it would have been starting from scratch.
Super. Well, I think it's a fantastic document to have, and it's available online for everybody to read line by line if they so choose to. Thanks.
As I said earlier, thank you, Brian. An extremely large policy. Over to anybody that has any questions here of Brian. And I think you had one, Richard?
Yes, at page 56.
With regards to staff code of conduct?
With mission, I believe it's the mission statement. I'm just wondering, we're talking about the residents, and I'm just wondering whether business owners should come before visitors.
Certainly,
it's all our township, and then visitors at the end.
Yeah, I have no problem modifying that so that the business owners are reflected ahead of our visitors.
They may feel better about it, but I just think it puts all the township in one spot, and then and we certainly do welcome our visitors, and we need them. Thank you. Now,
was there anything else, Richard?
I had I think it was 57.6. I have wrote something here. Is there a 6? Wait here. Somewhere must be a 6 down in there somewhere.
This is just the administration section of the
talks. I had a note here saying something to the fact that states that they can be terminated for not abiding by the policy. But maybe I'm out of.
I'm not sure where you're.
I don't know either. I will reread it after, and I'll get a hold of Brian after the meeting sometime.
Certainly.
And that's the hard part of not having the hard copy, but that's what I elected to do, and possibly I should have went.
Obviously, code of conduct is extreme. Would this be related to the code of conduct and other issues that we have stated here, that if anybody is not adhering to that code of conduct, is that what it's about?
Yeah, it was something about being terminated for. It certainly caught my eye, whatever it was.
I have termination of employment where the complaint is not substantiated, or where it is substantiated. What?
I better reread the whole section and get back with my question or concern.
I'm certainly available to that, Councillor Shalla, if you wish to reach out.
It'll just speed up the meeting.
Yeah.
Under scope of manual here, I have Second paragraph.
Whereabouts are we now, Richard, please?
Under it says scope somewhere in must be in page 58, 57.
This was the vision statement that was taken in 57's or 58, sorry, 57.
I had vision. Was about contract employees. Scope, okay, here we are, just a sec now. Second paragraph. As volunteers, just a second now. Okay, I think we're in the right spot here. We talked about contract employees. Somewhere, okay, right here. The policy and procedures in this manual apply to all employees of the organization, including volunteers and contract employees. I'm just wondering whether the contract employees word should be temporary employees. I don't think we're talking about an outside contractor because that's talked about later on somewhere in there, I've noticed.
Contract employees are generally term employees that you hire for a specific project or a specific period of time.
But here we talk about manual apply to all employees of the organization, including the volunteers. And it talks about students, and I was just wondering whether that contract employee is there, or is that an overall umbrella for everyone working, even a contractor or subcontractor, etc. I just thought maybe it meant a temporary employee.
Yes, certainly contract employees would, I have, we have little control over subcontracted employees that may be hired via, we hire BEI to come in and do some paving. We really don't have a lot of control over their staff or the behaviors of their staff. Contract employees, most of our staff are permanent staff, but we may on occasion hire I don't know, an economic development person, as had been talked about under a RED grant previously, under a contract for a one-year term. That person would be a definitive term. It may be part-time, it may be temporary, but they would be under contract and therefore they would be obligated to this as well. My hire as a contractor, when I came to work for the municipality, originally self-employed, I would fall under this as a contract employee.
Okay, then, okay, that's fine. That's fine. I understand. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for bringing that up, Richard.
Now, page 58. Unless someone else, right here, I'm just wondering whether.
I actually took this, Councillor Shala, directly. I copied and pasted this out of the strategic plan of the municipality.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. But I'm just wondering we're talking about 2026. And when we talk about the internet, I'm just wondering whether, where do I see that? Whether it presently enjoying, and it should be. We're presently enjoying, and we're talking about the future. So even if it is another way somewhere else, now enjoying reliable. I'm just wondering whether it should be saying, because it's a vision, what we want in the future, if it should be possibly providing an improved internet to all in the area of the township. Because we've talked about that a lot at the table. And if we're talking about our vision, that's what we want, I think. So we want an improved internet system. And my notes were here, providing improved internet to all areas of the township. It's talking about the present here, I think.
No, to the future.
And we want, if we're talking about 2026, we want to move forward, correct?
Yeah, and as I can adjust this if council would like, but as I say, I took the strategic plan section that states the vision of the municipality, and I quite literally did a copy and a paste. So exactly what you had in your, if you were to open your strategic plan, that's the exact same thing that you're going to see in this document. And remember, this document really is a staff document versus a public document.
Well, really, if we may have slipped up there too, but if it's the future, we want to improve it. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
Jane, you have a question?
So Richard, just going back to that statement, Brian, if you can slip it down a little bit, it's stating what we will want to have by our vision for the year to 2026. So that statement is affirmatively saying that, have I lost that now? I can't see it now, Brian. Where is it? Which one was, where is it?
Talking about now.
Yes, it's saying that, and by 2026, we have what we were going for. We now are enjoying reliable, affordable, high-speed internet throughout most of the township. So do you see where it's stating what we will have in 2026? That's just my thought on that. So
I don't see it that way, but we're
I think
now
it is
it almost
worded,
sounds like now. Okay.
I think we have it worded correctly.
Okay.
Because it is a vision, and whether or not it happens is something
vision
else.
is the
It is
future.
our vision from our strategic plan. So is there anything else that anybody else has to bring forward with regards to this? Councillor Bongo, you have a question?
I just want to say that on my tablet, going back to what Richard was looking for with the word terminated, I did a search for the word terminated and I found it appearing 4 times in the document. Maybe we'll find what you were looking for. I'll just quickly read what I found. So of the policy, page 13, former employees who left Township of South Algonquin without proper notice or whose employment was terminated for disciplinary reasons shall not be eligible for reemployment. So that's the first time it appears. The second time on page 27 of the policy, flexible work arrangements are recognized as temporary agreements that may be terminated by either the employer or the employee with reasonable notice. So that's the second time that it appears. The third time, this is on page 40 of the policy, not of the PDF. If an employee's services are terminated, vacation pay earned up to the date of termination will be paid to the employee no later than the day that would have been the employee's next payday. And then the final time that the word terminated appears, page 46 of the document, an employee is entitled to take declared emergency leave for as long as they are not performing duties of their position as determined by the provisions above. Entitlement will end the day the emergency is terminated or disallowed. So I don't know, Richard,
I'll re-look for it and
okay, you're gonna
I'll get back to everyone.
No problem. I thought maybe we could
I appreciate
find it there. No problem.
You have that ability, Bongo, and I appreciate that. I got to stay right here on this page.
No problem.
Okay, is there any other questions regarding the HR policy?
Under page 60.
Yep, go ahead, Richard.
It talks about benefits. And somewhere there, I had a note saying that we're talked about part-time or temporary. I had made a note here that I thought it should say temporary full-time and temporary part-time will not be entitled to benefits. And I forget how it was worded here.
The way our benefits program has been established by the municipality, the wording is very clear. Any staff member working in excess of 24 hours per week is eligible. and that was probably taken into consideration as part of the pay equity exercise, likely because pay equity takes into account total compensation, which includes the cost of benefits.
I guess I just thought under maybe a temporary part-time and temporary full-time, it just doesn't talk about benefits, I don't believe.
That's because they're temporary positions.
And I just thought it should indicate that they're not entitled. I just thought the statement should have been in there.
Are you thinking about a statement to say any temporary worker is not entitled to benefits within the township, or something as a bland statement like that?
I just thought that where it talks about temporary full-time, temporary full-time, or no, yeah, temporary full-time, you're filling in for someone, correct? And your temporary part-time, that it should be a statement in there saying they're not required, that they're not entitled to benefits. I just thought it should, rather than leave it out.
I think that we leave it out, only Councillor Shalla, and I only say that because a temporary position may be, I don't know, I end up on a leave of absence for some reason, and a staff member is fulfilling the role that I was temporarily. So they're temporarily full-time, the CAO, but they're still a permanent member of staff who's entitled to benefits.
No, I just take it another way. I take it just like when we hired you.
Yeah.
On a temporary basis initially, then that should say not entitled to benefits. And the same with a temporary part-time, someone coming off the street filling in for someone under you. They're only there for 3 months or 6 months for whatever reason. That's what I consider a temporary. They're temporary in the full-time position. It's somebody from off the street coming in to fill those positions. And I just thought it should be, but if everyone agrees it's not, it doesn't matter, then that's fine.
There's certainly a location here that clearly states that no benefits are paid as a minimum in the first 3 months.
Well, it
I
could be a
think that
6-month temporary
covers.
position.
I think that covers the majority of any temporary employee that we would have. Any longer than that, that may be something they wish to negotiate on appointment.
Well, I'm not sure how long pregnancy leaves are and whatever. We've covered it in here, just to go back to it exactly to the date. But I'm just thinking. Anyway, okay, move on if it's if it doesn't make sense.
Does anybody else have any views on whether or not we should be paying benefits if someone is working even temporarily more than 3 months for the township? What's anybody else's view there?
It's what they're considered, I think, under contract. We shouldn't be. Anyway.
If I might just ask a quick question there.
Please go ahead, Dave.
Sorry. We have some permanent part-time guys that they're seasonal, and after they've been here for quite a while, they were eligible for benefits, and a couple of it's participation in OMERS actually is what I'm talking about, and some of them declined, and one of them participated. So is that still the case? I'm just
there's actually a requirement, Dave, under the agreement that municipalities have with with OMERS, the Ontario Municipal Employees Benefit. They actually require anyone that works in excess of 600 hours to be given opportunity to participate. But the key is they have to have worked for a full year, and then they have to have worked another full year. In the following year, they're eligible to be required to. You have to go to them and ask, do you wish this or do you not? So the threshold is 600 hours annually for OMERS.
okay. wanted to make sure I'm understanding. Just
Yeah, no, certainly OMERS has that requirement of 600 hours annually, which is a pretty small threshold to cross every year.
Thank you.
So do I understand that if someone has worked 600 hours last year, they can start their benefits as of the following year?
Yeah, if they're expected to be 600 hours, you have to, again, the following year, you do have to offer that benefit to them.
Okay, thank you. Does that make life a little clearer, Dave?
Yes, it does. Thanks.
Thank you.
Same understanding I had. Just wanted to make sure.
Dave, I believe, I recall what you're discussing there, and I believe those people signed off at the time, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anything else anyone wants to bring up there in that HR policy?
I had page 84.
Yes, Richard.
And I'm not sure why I wrote it here, but I had immediate family members, generally 3 days is allowed. It almost sounds at the top, if you know, when I think about it. I just thought that it's 3 days should have been at the top, but then also with that, I noticed when we drop down, we mention 3 days for, or we talk about the time allocated for part-time. Okay, here's permanent. Permanent full-time, we say 1 day, and then it shows the what permanent full-time employees are allowed. And then it talks down below somewhere where for full-time. And I'm wondering why, if we talk about where you see full permanent right on your screen, it says permanent full-time. Then up above, I was wondering why we didn't have 3 days at the top. If we go to the top to show what's allowed there, right here. If we talk about it down below for an aunt and an uncle, or why aren't we putting the 3 days at the top of that chart?
If it's not there, it must have been oversighted. I have to apologize in all the words that we wrote that I must have somehow missed it, but I thought that 3 days was clearly stated.
It's 3 days. It says 3 days way down below somewhere, and I'm wondering why it isn't at the top. In that, if we just move the screen up a bit to say or drop it down then. No, keep go backwards, please. If we go to the top, right there, why we're not saying 3 days is allowed here? I just thought it should be included there.
Maybe we can just cut and paste the statement from below and pop it in a little bit higher up.
That's what I guess what I'm asking.
I will I'll clarify that before we finalize it. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Obviously, if you read the whole policy, it all becomes very clear. But as Richard said, to actually have the number of days at the beginning may make life easier if someone's trying to read this quickly.
Okay.
So thank you. Richard, are there any other points that you brought up?
Okay, page 89.
Yep.
We talk about percentages, and I'm wondering why we're confusing it that way for when we're talking about up to 25 years and whatever. And I'm wondering why we just don't say that you're allowed what do I have? Just a second here. Employees. Why isn't it just that they get so many days per or so many weeks per year rather than breaking it down into percentages? It just confuses it. I think if you go down below here, yes, right down in
We do state the length of time in the annual vacation. The time where you really need to clarify that is specific to people that are maybe working part-time. They've been here for 20 years. They work part-time. They meet all of the requirements. Their vacation is paid on their pay as a general rule with their paychecks. So when I first hire a part-time staff member, they get their 4% vacation pay right away on their paycheck. So it's just clarifies the amount that is the equivalent to the time off, so that we ensure that we're paying the right amount.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying that. I had read it and come to that conclusion myself, but thank you for clarifying. Okay. If there are no other issues with this policy, I literally thank every member of council for reading through this and trying to absorb it all.
Just a second.
Oh, you have more, Richard?
Yes, page 18.
Go ahead.
I'm just wondering if the word requires, it says expects. Where was that?
That's page 18.
Oh, that's page 68.
18?
Page 118.
118, I'm sorry.
Cannabis. There's a word expects right there. I just seen it somewhere. Requires, I think, would be the better word. If you expect, you just think, well, they should maybe provide it, but do we want it or do we not? If we want it, we should say we require it. If we don't want it, we shouldn't expect it.
I have no problem with changing the word.
I don't know. I'm just throwing it out on the table.
I think requires it is a better term there as well, Richard. I tend to agree with you.
Now, if we could just go back to 117. Number 3. Okay. If an employee is considered impaired. I guess I'll just let that one fly for now. Thanks.
Okay.
Page 121. And it talks about page 121, and we're talking about and I have a note here that says should there not be a statement included that an employee charged convicted of certain of certain charges shouldn't there be consideration that they be terminated? Like, I don't think it says that. We talk about drinking, we talk about whatever. And why should the township have to pay someone to drive around as a passenger for a year, for example, or 3 years, whatever it may be? And I'm just thinking there should be a statement in here somewhere.
I do believe, Councillor Shella, that staff within the Public Works Department specifically anyway, have an obligation within their contract with the municipality to maintain in good standing their driver's license. So if at some point they were to have that revoked, that would adversely affect employment standing and would require some conversations about any requirements we might have under legislation for accommodation or otherwise, or whether or not there would be a termination. But those discussions would have to ensue at a time when, in fact, we had a staff member that came forward with respect to.
Well, I think we're somewhere in here, it's talking about vehicles or accidents or whatever. Motor vehicle accidents. And we've talked about, I believe, impairment. And I just thought, in the event of an accident, we talk about OPP must be called. Somewhere in the event of an accident. Somewhere I just thought it's a pretty important document, and I just think it's failing to address that the person, if this is going to be information that's going out to the staff to read, that we're serious about this. And it should include that the employees, if they're charged and convicted of certain related infractions, that they may be terminated from the township.
And I do believe that, I mean, we can, if council feels it necessary to add it here, but I do believe we have a section here that states, that they may lose their driving privileges if their abstract becomes unsatisfactory, but also as part of their job descriptions, it's very clear that they're required to maintain a valid driver's license. And should they not be able to maintain it because of criminal charges related to drunk driving or impaired driving or whatever it may be, then in fact, staff would deal with that as a disciplinary process as it would relate to and could include termination of employment.
Then I think it should be in this policy. We're going to all this effort to prepare a policy. Let's go all the way and tell it right here. And I just feel that there's a lot of effort went into this here, and we talk about it, and why not spell it out as we, so the staff know, it's up front. We know, the public know what's going to happen. I don't want to see any of my tax dollars going to carry someone. So why not put it in this policy?
What does anybody else think about that?
I'm okay with it, unless Brian thinks that or advises that it's not necessary. But I think the more transparency in our policies, the better.
I think the one challenge that we could run into and that's probably why I've omitted it here, is because it is a disciplinary process, and employers have obligations which are quite substantive as it relates to accommodation of staff. And termination of employment is a process. You can't just decide to terminate somebody today in today's litigative world, and it results. You have to ensure that maybe the person has a problem, and that problem needs to be accommodated, and they need to receive treatment. So there's all kinds of things in that process where we don't just automatically say you're terminated. We do conduct investigations. We do seek legal advice. And in the event of our investigation and consultation with legal, it's determined that we are in a position to terminate, then it would absolutely occur. But if it was deemed to be a problem that the person required treatment for, there's always a potential that we would be able to put them on a leave, but not necessarily be able to do much more than discipline. So I'm very cautious in what I put in here because the legislation around this is pretty solid, and the duty of accommodation is extreme, because the municipality has to provide that it's prove that it's providing an undue hardship is the key words they use in accommodation. And the limit of undue hardship when you're a taxing entity, the courts have often found against municipalities who haven't done their full due diligence. So I only caution, I can put it in here. I only caution that I'm not certain that the words would have the strength that they would require, that we certainly can refer back to their job descriptions, that we can certainly go back to progressive discipline and managing people that do have issues. But I would only be cautious that putting it in here may not have as much value as being anything more than words being added to the document.
This may help make the difference of whether somebody feels they should work under certain conditions or not. And also in that particular location in the 121 here, I feel we also should have that an accident report is required and be completed between the worker and the manager for all accidents. And I didn't see that in there anywhere.
Just going back to the statement that Brian just made. So Brian, essentially what you're saying is that it's the process for how to handle an impairment incident where an employee, perhaps in that employee, there's been identified a problem, and the township will do its due diligence to intervene with promoting treatment or something of that nature to almost give them a second chance to do our due diligence to be a good employer. That all seems to be covered in their contract and in another process. And you were cautioning against including that in this document for those reasons that you stated. And to me, it makes sense. So I'm okay to leave it omitted as it is here. I'm just curious to know what the other councillors think.
Jane, go ahead, please.
I understand Richard's concerns, but I support Brian's recommendations. I, in my past life, worked in an environment where accommodation was expected for the individual in the workplace to every degree to enhance their capability to return to their job. And in my situation, if they could not return to their previous job, they were retrained at the expense of the organization for another job. So I think accommodation is very, very comprehensive, and the expectations. So it's been described to me in courses to the point where the organization is financially having financial impacts upon the organization. So the obligation for accommodation is huge. And I think we can't be prescriptive that the expectation is that loss of job will be the outcome of the occurrence. Thanks.
Thank you for that,
Then
Jay.
can we expect that there should be an accident report completed between the worker and the manager for every accident?
Are we talking here about vehicle accidents or any accident in general? Because I think we have policy for an accident that isn't a vehicle already in our policy.
Well, we're talking about vehicles here, I believe.
Okay.
And if we're talking about an accident under the Occupational Health and Safety Act, that's another issue altogether. That must be completed within a certain number of days after the person's injured. That's not what we're talking about here. I'm talking about an accident that I'm just looking at the history within our township since I've been a councillor, and I don't feel that some accidents have received the attention as far as reporting that they should have. And I think we should spell it out here that it should be required that the report be completed in between the worker and the manager.
And certainly the section that says contact their immediate supervisor or manager to inform them of the accident and provide as much pertinent information as possible. I certainly have no problem with adding and complete an accident report with the manager, with their supervisor or something.
Excellent. Thank you.
I think that would cover that, Richard. The fact is that we've asked for the OPP to attend. Maybe their accident reports are not quite as comprehensive as we would like them to be. So I think to add that, Brian, as just a few words after that, contact with supervisor, I think would be a good thing to do. Thank you.
If I may, Chair, just
Please go ahead, Dave.
add a quick note. The practice here, certainly since I've come aboard, is that if there's an incident that results in property damage, not necessarily an accident, but an incident, the Public Works employees immediately fill out a report outlining what the conditions were. So just as an example, 2 years ago, during a slippery day, a wing from a tandem plow came in contact with the gate post at the landfill site, and we had to re-weld it. So that operator immediately wrote down the particulars, and they are recorded. So not just accidents, but incidents with township equipment, because not every incident is an accident. So where we have property damage, we have been tracking that and documenting it.
So you are already doing that, but to actually have it written down makes that sort of an ironclad statement within this policy, I think.
I guess my recommendation was we could do, incident or incident/accident, because we have lawnmowers and other things too that things can happen with.
Yeah.
Yep. I think incident and accident would be a good addition there.
Thank you.
I agree.
Thank you. Do we have anything else, Richard?
Page 183. It talks about the number of employees. Where do I see it? Okay, up at the top. It talks about the training for number of employees. Oh, if the report, I think the name of the employee should be there that takes the training.
We do actually maintain a record, because Councillor Shell, I know you haven't logged into the HR downloads yet, but when you log into the HR downloads and undertake training that's been assigned to you specifically from that module, it actually sends me a training record saying that you've completed with a certificate of completion. So I have a date for which you've undertaken and completed that training to meet our obligation under AODA or other legislative requirements. And any of the staff that do things such as CPR training and such, we maintain the list of those staff and copies of their certification within their personnel files. So we do know who's been trained, when they've been trained, and when they're due to be retrained again. So certainly we do include the dates and the names of the individuals.
It doesn't say that here.
Okay, well, I certainly can modify that to change to include date, name.
Yeah, it should be date and name.
Yeah, certainly.
And regarding myself, I'll have you know that I had problems getting on. I tried numerous times. I had a schedule of with one of their, I forget what he was called. I had an appointment for 9 o'clock. I waited till 11:30, 2.5 hours, and he never got a hold of me, never contacted me. At 1:30, he responded that he would meet at 3:30. Well, I certainly wasn't sitting around all day, and it just been whatever. So anyway, I'll talk to you later, but that has nothing to do with this.
No, it's not a problem. But certainly once you get in, you'll see how that process works for the staff as well. And I will send you a new link because those links, when I send them out, are only valid for the first 48 hours. Then once you've originally signed in, it'll keep whatever you've signed in with, but the original link is only good for 48 hours.
Well, I actually even signed in.
Okay.
And couldn't get on. And then finally, after 2 days, I believe the first time, I was contacted by the HR group and then to set up an appointment, and then it didn't work out, even though I was scheduled. So anyway, I just left it at that.
Certainly, if you have any issues, you're more than welcome to come in and see me, and I'm more than happy to help you in the process.
Okay. Somewhere it talks about cell phones in this next training here, or somewhere between 183 and 192. And it says for business use only. I'm not sure where it is, technology. Talks about cell phones. And it says use for
Telephone. Oh, yeah.
Where are we here? Touches are directed to use the personal or company cell phones only for business purposes, township business purposes.
I certainly can add township in there.
It's just that if somebody has their own business on the side,
yeah,
it's business. I just think it's township business.
Yeah, no, I can certainly clarify that is township business that we mean there.
And page 192. Somewhere in here, it talks about paper copies or what I forget. I just thought that the public were allowed to come in and get copies made prior and pay for them.
This is specific to township employees.
Okay. So it's related to, they can't make, I just forget where it is in here. But I just want to ensure or make sure that if somebody off the street needed a copy of something that was important, that they could continue to get that copy and pay for it if necessary.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's part of our procedure, one of our bylaws that allows us to make copies for people.
Okay, well, thank you. That's all I have, and I appreciate it. And if I've delayed it, I'm sorry. It was a
Richard,
lot of reading and a lot of good work by you, Brian. Thanks, and staff, whoever was involved.
thank you, Richard, for reading through it so thoroughly and bringing those points for clarification. I think it was, I think each of your points were very valid. So thank you. If nobody else had anything more about the HR policy, can we proceed, please, to the next point there? Council pregnancy leave, or in fact, statutory leave, and that's the leave, I think it's federal or provincial, the statutory leave that as the township we are required to adhere to. Could you allude to that, please, Brian?
Yeah, the Municipal Act was amended a number of years ago. The legislation was requiring municipalities to have an actual council pregnancy parental leave policy. It is a statutory leave. We just didn't have the official policy that met the requirements of the legislative requirement under Section 259 of the Act. So I simply brought that forward. It's not something that's, of course, of any concern today. But, as our councils get younger, there's a good chance that some of them may look to take time to spend with their newborn children or their adopted children or otherwise. And it's a good policy to just have set aside, and it meets the requirements that we should have under Section 259 of the Act.
And presumably this act also gets put into play if anybody is adopting, I believe, or also if they are taking custody. So I think it's a little bit more far-reaching than just actually giving birth.
Yeah, absolutely.
The policy does encompass all things related to infant care.
Mhm.
So, thank you. Does anybody have a question with regards to that? Obviously, it's a statutory requirement. Nice to have it in writing. So, thank you. And then the issue that we have here with regards to our policy on vaccination. And I do know that there has been a lot of talk, and there are some members of staff that are a little concerned about this. So, Brian, can I ask you to take the lead here, please, on the vaccination policy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're all aware this is becoming commonplace throughout the province today. I spent considerable time working this with our legal advisors. I provided you with comments from staff regarding it. Of course, I did provide those without the names of staff. I didn't want anyone to feel that I was directing their comments so that they were identifiable. I simply took the comments and sent them out to you. I did send you my comments as it relates to those. I provided you with a second legal opinion that another municipality had done of this policy, and their lawyer's opinion on this policy. I think the policy gives us the opportunity to ensure the safety of not only our staff, but the residents who may attend our facilities. It gives our staff, when they're out in the public, some knowledge of being safe. It ensures that we're going to meet the requirements under the Occupational Health and Safety Act. I think, in my opinion, if we would be more apt to have a problem if we don't implement a policy than if we do. But certainly I know council probably has had a lot of thought to give on this, given the world circumstances today. And I certainly defer to council for any comments they have regarding the policy, or if there's any specific questions. I think that a lot of the questions that may have come up, I've answered to the group. So I've attempted to keep everyone as informed as possible during this process, and making sure that anything that was asked has been shared with everyone. So all of the information for consideration has been presented to council on this matter.
Brian,
So,
it's Richard, is there the provincial government coming out with anything for their workers regarding this?
The province has, in some cases, with select workforces, have specifically stated that they shall. There's, depending on the province, the state, everybody's got their own way they've been managing this. I do know places like the city of Ottawa are currently reviewing similar policies. Universities have all basically said this is the type of policy they're implementing. I can't say that I've actually read very many of these. I have looked at a few of them, but I work very closely with our lawyers in preparing this draft to present to council.
Thank you, Brian. From my point of view, I think it's very comprehensive and very self-explanatory. But if anyone else has other questions, please go ahead. Bongo, you have a question here?
yes, thank you, Chair. I am supportive of the policy from a workplace safety perspective. As a member of the board of directors here at the corporation, it will be a very big problem for me and the other directors if there is a transmission event that occurs at the workplace and we do not have a policy like this in place. I think that really exposes us to some concerning amount of liability and negligence. So I am supportive of the policy, and I do support scientific and evidence-based policy making such as this. I do have one question for Brian, and it's on page 203, testing part H. And it states the worker must undergo rapid antigen point of care testing in the event that such testing is implemented in the workplace. So I just had a question about the second fragment of that sentence, in the event that such testing is implemented. So I guess my question is this testing going to be implemented or not when we or if we pass this policy?
The testing is not being considered. Testing was put in there in the event that we had potentially a contact within our organization, or somebody was deemed to be a close contact within our organization who may have then, had other close contacts that could spread it. So certainly I left that there as an overabundance of caution that should at some point it be deemed to be necessary, that we do have the tool there to go back and provide rapid antigen point of care testing to ensure that staff that may have had a contact are in fact not a contact, versus not having that tool in the toolbox to be able to take out and then wishing that we had, and trying to manipulate policy or bring together a council to fix policy in the event that we had an issue.
Okay, and my follow-up question is, in the event that we do have an unvaccinated employee, with the way the policy is currently written, that unvaccinated employee would not have to go through regular weekly or bi-weekly testing. Is that correct?
No, and let's not put this on potentially any unvaccinated staff. Any staff who choose to not provide proof that they have had their 2 shots in their 2 weeks are all in the same boat. So there may be some staff who don't want to share that medical information, which is their prerogative, but they would also fall under this, and they would all be treated equally under this policy.
Okay, and of course there would be those additional measures to ensure the safety of those unvaccinated employees, correct?
Absolutely. I think we're protecting them as much as we're protecting ourselves to ensure that we don't have a spread of this within the workplace or even within the community if we can avoid it.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Jane, you have a question or an input here?
No, I have a comment. I support this wholeheartedly. Public health may come in and make the recommendation that all staff in the organization have point of care testing done as well. So, that's within their prerogative, and it's not, it's at all the staff. It doesn't say, this person or that person. They will test everyone. So I think this is a very comprehensive, fair document, and I appreciate Councillor Bongo's comments, and again, we talked about accommodation previously in another instance, and the duty to accommodate is similar in this situation as well. So anyway, I thoroughly support this, and I know that the work that Brian has done on this is being respected throughout the public health agencies, etc. So I'm very pleased that South Algonquin is coming forward with a comprehensive and fair COVID-19 safety in the workplace vaccination policy. So thank you.
Yes, I did. I don't know that I mentioned that Mayor Dumas was, in fact, Dr. Robert Cushman did review this policy as well.
And Dr. Cushman is the medical director of the Renfrew County and District Public Health Unit, just for those that may not recognize the name.
Chair?
Thank you, Jane, for that input. Richard, yes?
Yes,
please
could
go
I
ahead.
ask, have we, maybe the question to either Dave or Brian, encouraged or enforced what's happening in the workplace as far as masking and whatever recently?
We certainly are, maintaining COVID protocols in accordance with public health guidelines to this date to ensure that we're doing the best we can to keep our staff as safe as we can. And certainly, I think formalizing what we want to do moving forward is an important part of this.
I've noticed just recently a change, an improvement when there's two people in a vehicle, but I'm just wondering if we're allowing one person not to wear a mask if the other is.
I would think where they're in a vehicle, Richard, I mean, certainly it's their discretion with this policy, but if you're in a vehicle with somebody, you're probably safer because you don't have very good ventilation, and both should likely have that mask on. But this does give the people who have fully vaccinated, who are known to be fully vaccinated, the option of either wearing or not wearing. That will be their prerogative.
Okay, how would one person that possibly would wear a mask and one that doesn't, how can the one be assured that is wearing the mask that the other has been double vaccinated?
Everything is anybody that's been double vaccinated that's not wearing masks is required to provide proof of vaccination to myself for the purposes of their files.
Okay, I thought we were dropped our guard a bit over the winter, but anyway, I'll think about this one. I may give you a call on this later.
Jane, you have some input here. Thank you.
The individual has the right to continue to wear their mask. And I will tell you, I had an appointment in Bancroft yesterday, and I mean, I'm going to mask until, COVID is gone and my infant grandson is capable, or my grandchildren who will be going to school this fall and not vaccinated. I will be wearing a mask everywhere. It doesn't matter. That's my personal choice. But I mean, every business I went into in Bancroft had signs on the door: no mask, no entrance. So they're not discriminating between the vaccinated or the unvaccinated. If you don't have a mask on, it doesn't matter who you are, you don't go in the store. And I think, you may see vehicles where you know, once the enhanced process that we have going on right now with masking, but there might be people in there that are wearing a mask because that's their choice, you know, in point in time. And, you know, it's hard to determine, and it's hard to see. It was hard in Bancroft to see the number of people on the street that did not have masks on in groups. And I mean, they weren't just family groups. There were large groups of people. And to me, that's very, very concerning when we have the COVID variant occurring in our township and throughout our region. And you know, there's lots of people just even in the village that I see that I don't know. So I'll be wearing the mask. I'll be the mask bandit in the township of South Algonquin, but I'm not letting go of my mask. It's too important.
I feel the same way. And when I look at the last 2 years, how many people, I can't even tell you who I've came across that had the flu or know of anyone. So I think I'll be wearing mine when my grandchildren are when they're married and they have children. So I'll be wearing as long as I can, really, especially in certain spots, public spots, grocery stores, etc. Because I just think it's the healthy thing to do. But I'm just concerned about maybe about our township workers, and maybe that someone maybe a bit shy about encouraging someone else to wear a mask. So anyway, I'll talk to staff about this and later.
Thank you, Richard. I think what this policy is saying, if you are double vaccinated and have proven such by the 1st of November to the CAO, you have a choice whether or not you wear a mask or not. If you are not vaccinated, then you are compelled to wear your mask. And I think we've gone about it in the best way possible. We've tried to accommodate, but that at the end of the line, that is what we are saying. If you're vaccinated, you have a choice. And as Jane quite rightly said, and I agree with her, I will still be wearing my mask long into the future in a public or in a confined space. But if you are unvaccinated, then it is our township's policy that you will wear your mask. Am I right here, Brian, please?
And it's not just the unvaccinated, it's anyone that chooses not to provide proof. So absolutely, you have freedom of choice. You've taken and, gone and done everything that public health has advised. If you choose to sit in your office and not wear a mask, or social distance and not wear a mask, that's your choice. But for those that have not been vaccinated or choose not to provide proof of vaccination, you'll have to wear your mask to ensure that there's a reduced risk of it being transmitted from an unmasked person to you, or for you to transmit it to somebody else. So I think this is a protection on both sides. There is a bit of a balancing act that's been done in preparing this. And from everything I've received from the legal advisors, it meets all of our obligations under the Ontario Occupational Health and Safety requirements. And as one reviewer of it stated, that it's a very appropriate policy for within the working environment for which we are.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any input into this discussion, please?
Just a
Councillor
question.
Bongo, please.
Thank you. Studies have been showing that the Delta variant can spread even from fully vaccinated individuals. So I'm just a little concerned that if fully vaccinated individuals are unmasked in indoor spaces, whether that's the smart thing to do. And I believe the province of Manitoba, even recently, they allowed masks to go off indoors, and I think they've just reinstated the mask rule for indoor indoor interactions as recently as yesterday or 2 days ago. So Brian, I don't know if you have any comments with regards to that.
No, and certainly I don't disagree, Councillor Bongo, that I think the primary thing here is if people choose to, and they're fully vaccinated, we know that 95% of all people in ICUs right now and flooding into our hospital rooms are those that are not vaccinated. So the people that are, and I think we're going to live with this, in my opinion, for a very long time. So yes, if you're vaccinated, there's still a chance you could get something. But the chance of you getting any more than mild flu-like symptoms are very insignificant. So yes, we may still have a chance, but we're going to prevent the people who are not vaccinated from potentially ending up in a hospital, in our ICUs, as my first cousin is right now, just coming out of a coma after 2 weeks, and she's still intubated, right? So these things for the people, that's a very real possibility for those people who are not vaccinated. So I think that's where the cutoff is on this, was that there is still a possibility for release, for transmission, but that transmission, we're mitigating the risk to the people who are unvaccinated, and the vaccinated are less apt to find themselves in that long-term health issue in the hospital.
Thank you, Brian. Jane, you have some input here?
Just one quick comment, and I don't know if it has to be in the policy itself, but to me, this is one of the most living documents that we have this point in time due to the changing situation in regards to COVID and the variants. So, Brian, I don't know if it's necessary to put in there that this will be updated, as guidelines from the, public health or the province or the federal government come forward that would impact on the workplace.
I'm certainly willing to, adjust it according to guidelines that are coming through from public health, and I don't mind putting that line in there just so that it stays at the forefront. I think that just the way life has become, that this is something that's going to be on the front of the corner of the desk for a very long time, and that we're going to need to continually monitor and reevaluate the situation as it is today, and make changes in accordance with those changes that are happening around us.
Okay, thank you. I mean, from my point of view as a scientist, that's my original training. I've read so much about this study that is about to be published from the Netherlands, is stating that yes, people that are vaccinated can transmit, but they have less viral material in their nasal swabs than those that are unvaccinated. And yes, as Brian correctly said, if you are vaccinated, your chances are of getting mild flu-like symptoms, whether the unvaccinated can end up in a hospital, in ICU, and worse. So I think that information is about to be published out of Europe, out of the Netherlands, within the next couple of days, but they have proven that there is less viral material. Yes, there is some, but there is less viral material in vaccinated people to be transmitted. They're not saying it isn't there, but they're saying it is most definitely less. So I think our policy stands strong, giving people that choice inside and out at the moment. So thank you, everybody, for your input onto this. It's very contentious at the moment with regards to people wanting and listening to the scientists, who, this hasn't come quickly. They've been working on vaccinations for a long, long time. Even the mRNA has been worked on for many, many years, but now they have a vector of delivering this in a different way, versus people that choose not to be vaccinated. So it's very contentious, and it's good to have a policy here. If no one else has any more to put to this, perhaps we can move on and look at the report on bylaw services from the KPMG report. Thank you.
Just a background on this, council conducted, contracted KPMG to do a service delivery review. And in May, they provided us with that report. Page 64 of that report identified 3 issues regarding bylaw services specifically. And I do try to use this document as a reference point as issues that are being identified and cleared up. And they clearly stated that currently the township provides bylaw services on a part-time basis, and it has the potential to create challenges. We've seen that. People call on Wednesday for a complaint about a dog in one of the hamlets, and unfortunately, bylaw doesn't come back to the community until Thursday because he's there Tuesday and Thursday. He's being taken away from his time doing building inspections in order to fulfill the obligations of anything that we may have under bylaw requirements. We also know that we've relied on the OPP to enforce the Dog Owners Liability Act in the past. So when you do have a vicious dog that falls under that category, we've expected the OPP to deal with that. And there's a good chance that as we move forward with the new model of policing, that won't be available to us. Council has talked in great length about changing our official plan and our zoning bylaw to allow for trailers on private property, which currently is not allowed. This will require some additional bylaw enforcement when we license those items. That said, if we choose not to make any changes to the existing legislation, we do need bylaw time to dedicate to addressing the issue of trailers that are currently prohibited from those very same properties. So regardless of the decision or the direction we go, one way or another, trailers are going to be something that are going to have to be managed, whether that's to prohibit outright as the bylaws currently lay it, or whether we regulate them and then enforce the regulations that are established for them. So that said, I think I've done some assessment, and I think that we should look to 1,040 hours annually specifically. So the equivalent of a 20-hour work week. And I think that can be adjusted somewhat. There's a chance maybe that could be combined with someone else's duties to create more of a permanent position. And, we could move hours of work between different roles then. So I think there's a couple of opportunities here, but I think the first step in this process is for council to decide whether or not they feel it's appropriate to move forward with planning for an additional 1,040 hours. And certainly the timing on this is ideal, given that we are moving towards the budget process for next year. So certainly staff will take that into consideration then as part of our budget planning for next year.
Ryan, did you say an additional 1,040 hours?
Yes, I did.
So that's a full-time position is what you're talking about.
Basically, it's 1,040 hours is a part-time position. It's 20 hours a week. But we potentially could combine it with somebody else and make it a full-time job for them, because they do their other role and do this at the same time.
Well, he's presently working 20 hours a week.
Yes, so this would create,
sorry, 16 hours a week. So you're suggesting that he work additional 4 hours a week?
No.
Go ahead, Jane.
Oh, sorry. I didn't. If you want to respond to Richard, but
it's 20 hours a week is what we feel is probably going to be required over the course of the year. There may be periods where there's less and other periods where there's more, but as a net cost to the year, we're anticipating 1,040 hours.
So basically four additional hours per week. We hire him 2 days a week right now.
No, this would be Richard, 20 hours per week, not 4 hours a week.
No, we're already hiring them 20 or 16. So we're
if I
already
may-
hiring them for 16 hours.
If
2
I
days
may,
a week we hire them for now, don't we?
Richard, our chief building official has a job in another township, so he would not be able to fill this position. It would be put forward as a new position.
That's correct. And he may apply to take it. However, my question is, or my concern is, I'm confused. We're presently have a building inspector doing 16 hours a week.
That is correct. And the
Okay,
16
so
hours the 16 hours he undertakes as a chief building official. And if he takes an hour or so away from that, he's only working 15 as a chief building official, but he still has the workload that requires him. So the 16 hours a week is being recommended to be maintained for the purposes of a chief building official. And this would be 20 hours specifically dedicated to bylaw enforcement and bylaw enforcement issues.
So, okay, so then you're answering my question. So it's additional
That is correct.
additional 20 hours
That is correct.
per week. So really, okay, then well, we'd certainly want to, I would hope that we would give it a lot of consideration to what we're going to do with a trailer, because if we're going to chase trailers around and try to recover the costs of or chase dogs and recover the costs of that person for an additional 20 hours per week, it's quite a cost to the ratepayer in the township. So I would hope it would have much discussion and consideration before we approve of this.
Okay, thank you. But in all honesty, if we have bylaws in our township, there is no point us having bylaws if we have no one to enforce them. There is no point even having a fire bylaw or a fire ban if there is no one to enforce it. And so this individual must be able, or part of their work must actually list that they work beyond the 5 o'clock, so out of normal 9 to 5 hours, and obviously at weekends as required. So it is a job that has to have a lot of flexibility there. And we all know that issues within the township happen on long weekends and on Friday and Saturday nights. So if we're going to have bylaws to protect our township, there's no point unless we have a bylaw enforcer or someone to actually bring about some form of prosecution, some sort of incentive for people to actually respect our bylaws. It's no point in having them if people are saying, oh, well, there's no one to enforce it, what the heck? So I do believe that this is important, and yes, we need to discuss it further, of sure, but the person involved has to be prepared to work in the evenings and at weekends as well. So it's very much open for discussion here, but I think very needed. Trailers is only one part of our bylaw that's being broken at the moment. So thank you, Brian, for bringing this forward. Does anyone else have anything else that they need to add to this or would like added to this discussion?
Jane.
Or is this, yes, please go ahead.
Go ahead, Jane.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Dave and Sandra. I'm aware of at least 2 municipalities within close range to South Algonquin that have enhanced their staffing with a bylaw enforcement person, and they are confident in their estimations that the activities that they will discover with this individual being available throughout their township will cover the salary. And I've noticed the first thing people do these days when they buy a new piece of property in South Algonquin, and I've traveled both ways to Madawaska, and I've traveled through 523, and I've traveled 127 to the end of Sabine, and the first thing they do is put a gate on their property. So how do we know without our bylaw enforcement person being able to go in there what's happening in that area? And I think it's imperative. It's not just trailers, it's septics being put in where buildings are being put up, etc. So I agree with Sandra. We've got bylaws. We need somebody to be available to enforce them. And I would imagine, like, we've got those hours, but I would imagine the most of the hours could be stacked to be used during the building period, you know, from spring to fall, and then with some hours saved for over the winter or whatever. But certainly, I think this is a very critical consideration for the township. Thank you.
I have a question for Brian.
Please go ahead, Dave.
Brian, how's that going to reflect on our budget? Our current budget?
It's going to affect us to the cost of 1,040 hours. So, I mean, going back and looking at the position, I believe the position falls in around the $21-22 an hour. So, you know, it's probably about $4,000 or $5,000 at the outset on the year that it's going to cost us additional. Oh no, hang on, about 20. Hang on,
More than that.
20, about 20,000 overall. And that said, I think that the point is we do get a lot of people that have issues around our boat launches and such. We have areas where roads are being plugged up by parked vehicles that have gone up to the park for the weekend. And if we had to get a fire truck down there, we probably wouldn't get them down there. So I think this gives us an opportunity to create short form wording and set fines within our bylaws, which would then allow us to in turn take that and issue tickets. There's no, I have to go to court for everything. You issue a ticket, the ticket gets registered against the license plate after a period of time. And then when they go to renew their driver's license or their license plate, they can't until they pay that fine. So there's a way of us a methodology for us to collect most of this money through set fines. And I think that we may find that people will be much more comfortable over the course of the weekends when we have our big issues between the long weekends and such. Most of our community is here seasonally and on the weekends.
So we're dealing with approximately a 1% increase in our tax to cover the cost.
I would say that we're below 1. I believe 1, if I'm not wrong, is 40. So we'd be about 1/2 of 1% on that, and then I expect that we would probably collect part of that back. I won't estimate that at this time, but we could go back and estimate those numbers if you'd like on a cost recovery basis, especially when we get into licensing trailers. We can set those fees at a level that would help offset that wage.
So it could be possibly a revenue neutral job.
Potentially, but I won't say that because I can say I spent enough time with bylaw enforcement that I don't know that I've ever fully recovered by bylaw enforcement, but we certainly can endeavor to try and do so.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, may I ask some questions, please?
Please go ahead, Councillor Bongo.
All right. Thank you so much, Brian, for bringing this forward. Just before I jump into my questions, I've been approached by lots of members of the public with regards to exactly these issues, dog issues, people misusing municipal property or disrespectfully using municipal property. And so I really honestly think that this is an example of the township responding to all of these various different complaints and suggestions that we've received, especially during the busy tourist season. And I thank you for Councillor Harper for asking about the fiscal impact. That's a very important question because I think it's very important for the public to understand, because the public, as it stands right now, based on my public engagement that I've had, the public wants to see more bylaw enforcement. But to the members out there that are watching and listening, you do have to realize that if we were to add more bylaw enforcement, there is a cost attached to that. Brian mentioned it was in the ballpark of 20,000. And Brian, if you can identify in writing at some point, whether it's at the next meeting when we talk about this, just so that the public does have that figure written down and that they can sit on that number and digest it, and as well what the tax increase might be. I think around 1% is what we discussed over there in Dave's conversation. But as Brian did point out, in the collection of fees, we can recover a bit of the cost, perhaps not all of it, but perhaps a certain percentage of it. Anyways, moving on to my question here. So Brian, do you envision that our current CBO will be the person that will be doing this extra 1,040 hours, or are we going to be either getting another current member of staff to fill this role, or will we be recruiting a brand new person altogether?
No, our current CBO, he's part-time with us. He spends his 2 days here, and he has another community that he works. And between them, he's getting his full-time hours that he desires. I had a conversation with him and asked him while I prepared this report if that was something that he would be interested in entertaining, and he was not. I did reach out to another member of staff who in fact is working part-time with us right now, who in fact has been a bylaw enforcement officer in the past. If they might have some interest in this, and they certainly expressed interest. They certainly understood that our need is evenings and weekends probably, but they were definitely interested in having a deeper conversation. But I said I wouldn't have that conversation until I understood the gravity of whether or not we were going to move forward with this position, at which time then I would have that conversation privately with them, and then maybe a closed session to further discuss the logistics with council as it relates to that specific individual if we move forward with it.
Okay, perfect. And just to backtrack a little bit, so let's say hypothetically we pass this idea and we accept the extra 1,040 hours for bylaw enforcement. Does that mean that the chief building official, his time then would be 100% dedicated to building related inquiries, and the CBO would not need to bother with bylaw enforcement issues? Is that the way I'm reading this?
Well, we would hope not, but certainly if the bylaw enforcement officer was not available on that Tuesday or that Thursday, we would have somebody that could pick up that issue on those 2 days when they were in our community anyway and have already dealt with it and are familiar with the issues. So it does give us some freedom there. If for some reason the person is unavailable, we've got kind of a backup plan that we can say, okay, you're here, could you run and do this?
Mm-hmm. Okay, got you. Yeah, because I'm also very conscious of the fact that our CBO does wear two hats, and I myself, deep down in my heart, I do envision and I see growth in the township, and so I am concerned that the CBO would be overworked in the fact that he's got to pay attention to the building department and then also running around and chasing dogs and dealing with boat launches and things like that. So I do see the benefit in that the CBO will be able to manage his schedule a lot more easier should we go forward with this. And then my final question here is with regards to, so hypothetically, if we do create this job, this means that we could potentially staff somebody at the boat launch on the very, very busy weekends in the summertime. Is that my understanding?
Well, certainly we could make our presence known. Obviously, we have more than one boat launch, so we can't be in more than one place at a time. But certainly there could be a rotation through the various boat launches, doing a bit of an educational campaign with some of the people that are utilizing the facilities to try and make things work a little better on the ground in those areas, to get people parked maybe in a better place, or just to be able to address some of the issues rather than going out there and being heavy-handed all of the time. Certainly, I've always taken the approach that bylaw enforcement should start off with trying to get people educated to adhere to the bylaw, and that charging and fining people should be secondary to that. And you hope that you can get a voluntary compliance as part of the process. But as a last resort, you have the ability then to issue tickets. As much as that upsets people, we do have bylaws, and as said earlier, if we have bylaws and we're not enforcing them, there's no point in writing them.
No, absolutely, and I'm fully supportive of that philosophy that you've just described. Education before the ticketing, no, I very much like the sound of that, and I'm just making a comment to the viewers that might be out there. We've received a lot of feedback about the Galeri boat launch in particular, but Brian, as you've so correctly said, we do have other boat launches. In fact, when I was communicating with the Aylen Lake residents, they also did comment that there has been some congestion and traffic issues there as well. So I'm 100% supportive of if this position is created, that all of the boat launches are looked after. But nonetheless, when I am engaging with the public, I'm hearing that they do want to hear and see a little bit more initiative from our staff in the form of perhaps this new position to help manage some of the congestion that we're beginning to experience, or that we have been experiencing for many years. So this is an amazing conversation that we're having today, and I do look forward to massaging all of this information, because of course we do need to remind the public that if we are going to embrace this this additional 1,000 hours, then what the reality is from a fiscal perspective. So thanks for all of that.
Thank you, Councillor
Chair?
Bongo, for that input. Does
Chair?
anybody else have any input into here?
I do, Chair. Can I have a
Please
minute?
go ahead, Richard. Yes.
I've circulate around there quite often at the public dock, and I see a couple of ways that we might be able to manage it. We certainly want visitors to come to our township. So when they come and they show up, and that area provides a lot of employment to our residents within the township, whether through canoe rentals or whatever. So if we have to, it's pretty hard for anywhere, whether it's a city having a one-day event or a long weekend event. It's hard to have proper parking for maybe just long weekends. But if we do the best we can, and I don't think we are, but anyway, if we work with the Ministry of Natural Resources I think now they buy their permits online, but if their online program could provide them with an opportunity to print out a parking lot of where those people may be able to park, would maybe eliminate the congestion. And there's an area in front of that ball diamond. There's an area over by between the fire hall and the public boat launch. Or we have signage somewhere at that area telling people where to go if it's to park. So unless, well, certainly I don't think, I don't want to see my tax dollars going to have someone stand at a parking lot every long weekend or every weekend. We certainly can't be everywhere at all parking lots. And but I just think we should take some time and look at it and figure it out, discuss it, maybe work with the ministry as to how they could advertise it. If they issue the permits at the East Gate, maybe they can hand out a paper copy as to where there's additional parking. And maybe we, as a township, could look at where we could create some additional parking. Possibly there's an area along Hay Creek Road on the east side of the road that basically out in front of where the boat launch is, but directly across towards the Hay Lake Road. But we could tell people where to park. If they don't know where and they're new to the area and we want them here, let's do everything in our power to try to channel the parking where it should be. And I don't think we are doing a good job, and maybe the ministry isn't either. So, but if we work together, we may be able to accomplish this and it'd be less costly and frustrating for everybody, including the visitors and the residents. Thanks.
Thank you for that input, Richard. And as Brian quite correctly said, education and then legislation or enforcement, I think would be the way forward. But what we have in front of us here is the possibility of recruiting somebody to take on this role. And that's what we're discussing, because I think there's a little bit more than just parking at boat launches to be included here. That's a very small part of what they would be doing. Does anybody else have any more to say regarding this to move forward to its next stage, to actually discuss with somebody whether they would be amicable to taking on these hours or what have you? Are we happy for Brian to go ahead and make this a little bit more presentable to us as council? I think we are. I think consensus is that we need somebody to take on this role. Okay, thank you. So the next issue that we have on our agenda, and I apologise for this being so long, is additional funding required for the Airy Bridge. I know this is very dear to your heart here, Richard. So what's your thoughts on this background information that Brian gave us and the additional funding? Should we be putting the additional funding? Is it necessary? Should it be there? Why does it have to be so big if it's only pedestrianised and no motorised traffic allowed? Could we make it smaller, etc.? All of these things need to be discussed. If it was smaller, would there not be any money required? Brian, you've given us a background here. Is there any more you need to add to that?
I think Dave did a pretty good job at describing the issue. I believe Dave is still with us.
Yes.
Dave, did you want to speak to this issue specifically, because it really is yours?
Sure. Just to kind of give a quick review of what I've included in the report. We received budget information biannually from our consultant that described about $50,000 in remedial work that was required for the bridge. So when the grant came along, it sure seemed like there was lots of room. They came back with a design that was more elaborate, in that they wanted to include cribbing and a lot of rock protection at both ends of the bridge. They didn't provide budgets at that point in time. So this went out to market, and much like we saw the prices come back for the privy at Clear Lake Memorial Park, far greater than prices we've seen in the past. The construction market is on fire right now, for lack of a better term. Housing costs are up, material costs are up, and there's just not really enough contractors to cover the work that's out there. And I think we're seeing that reflected in these prices. The last time I witnessed this was coming out of the late 80s, with the housing boom down there. And I was part of that. And, we were getting, say $60 for an item. And then after the events of 1990, 1991, I think we were back to something in the order of $36 for that same item. I think it's a combination, material costs and, profit in the industry. So what I did is try and go back to the engineer and rework it, take out everything that was other than what's absolutely necessary. The bridge is a certain size. It is making it narrow. We can't make it shorter. Making it narrow would be probably not possible. Two people, people fish on both sides. There is a groomer that crosses it when Algonquin Park runs a groomer in that way for the ski trails. We also had just a tremendous offer come forward from one of our businesses in town to supply the material free to the township. And I certainly didn't expect that. That was just a real, I don't know what to call it, but a very generous offer from a local business. So with that in mind, I went back to the engineer to change the material to back to hemlock. That's what's there now, with the recommendation that it goes for pressure treating. So we received some estimates on what that pressure treating would be. I also, looked at the engineer, how we could save costs if we did the administration within the township itself and just provided inspection and leaned on the engineer if we had an issue. So there's probably some cost savings to be had. Even with what I presented here, not a great amount. And then, having a contingency is important in construction. Unforeseen things can come up. Just to maybe give a little added perspective on what's going on down at the Erie Trestle for people that haven't been down there recently. Two items. One is there seems to be an increasing amount of vandalism happening. So it seemed minor at first, then popped back out. People are actually tearing at the bridge itself now. I was just down there last week and was extremely surprised about how many people were down there at the end of that road. There probably was something in the order of 30 people in the area. My past experience, because I used to own property down that way, was there was almost no one there. So there's people on ATVs, there was people coming out of the walking trail. There's people all along the beach. And the other thing I think just to maybe keep in mind is it is a major link potentially to Algonquin Park. It connects with the Leaf Lake Ski Trail. It does go up the old railway bed quite a distance, and I do believe there is some progress being made under the ATA trail, which would make this bridge connector link to Rock Lake and Algonquin Park, and the bike trail that goes all the way to Cache Lake. So I believe that would lead a lot of business potential to to cycle out of the park, or tourist opportunities to increase from Whitney up into the park that way. So that's just kind of it in a nutshell. But a bit of a surprise overall, and this is not a project that we analyzed heavily going in. We leaned on the engineer's numbers and didn't prove to really be what we thought.
Okay, thank you for that, Dave. Brian, you have some more to add to this?
Just one more comment. I did meet with MNRF, with Parks, while Dave was on vacation. And they've identified, I believe there's a CNR bridge that this connects to, that they actually have funding that they're going to proceed with doing some rehabilitation work on. And when I made the comment that I wasn't sure whether or not we were going to, have the money to move forward with Erie, he said, well, if you don't go ahead with that, there's no point in us going ahead with the other bridge. So just so that you're aware of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Did they
Dave,
say where the
do
bridge
you want
was?
to input here?
Chair,
Sorry,
if I could
Richard,
just...
I didn't. Yeah, Councillor Bongo, please go ahead.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dave, for the report. It's very, very well put together. One of the biggest public feedback comments that I get, and Dave, I've already expressed this to you in email. I'm just airing this in the public forum here, is that people have reported vehicles, whether they're ATVs, driving right across the bridge or trucks going right up to the foot of the bridge. My question is in the plans from the engineer, was there some kind of a gate or something like that to prevent the vehicles that are not supposed to be on the bridge from entering?
There was, sorry, I could answer. There was no plan to put a gate in. What we found works quite well here is we have an abundance of large rocks.
Okay.
And, to carefully place them after construction so that the groomer can come through, or, our maintenance equipment can get in. That was where I was thinking, because we would also like to do a little bit of work on the trail that, goes in behind the public school, which would connect it with Whitney. We'd do that in-house and probably find some rocks.
Super excellent. And I'm sure that those viewers that are watching are probably very happy to hear that. Because again, that's just a continuous piece of feedback that I keep on getting. And I don't know how the rest of council feels. Of course, to take out 5.7% from reserves, it's a hard thing to swallow. I myself, I fully understand how valuable this piece of infrastructure is, and it is very evidently overdue for a rehabilitation maintenance project like this. So as hard as it is to swallow, I can accept the $100,000 that would need to be withdrawn from reserves. And in my own public engagement, I will be reiterating this to the public. I think it'll be hard pressed to find people that are against this idea, just because, like I've just said, this piece of infrastructure is so important. And actually, Dave, I just have a rhetorical question for you. Do you think it would be a mistake to go with the alternative, which is to return the grant funding that we've received and simply just do the minimal updates?
Well, it is our asset. It's becoming unsafe.
Yeah.
So the alternative would also include, I suppose, just closing it and blocking access entirely. So it would likely become a hazard. It would still have to be taken out. But with the connection of the trail, I mean, if Parks is going to start, doing some work on the line,
mm-hmm.
It likely brings, a lot of potential business to town. And I just also have one correction, that the deputy treasurer supplied me with an updated number on the reserves, because when I had calculated my 5.7%, I had not allowed for last year's surplus. I had an older copy of the reserves, and it actually represents 3.7% after that adjustment.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's I know it's kind of a tough question to ask you, but thank you for that response. And that response further solidifies in my mind that we would be making a mistake if we did not rehabilitate the trestle. I think it's a priority. I really do.
Okay, thank you. Dave, go ahead, please.
Yes, my concern is not with the rehabilitation of the trestle. I think it's an excellent idea, both for South Algonquin and for Algonquin Park. My problem is this is not the first time that our municipality has been responsible for the total cost of an infrastructure project, which affects both our municipality and Algonquin Park. We've got one north of Madawaska. We've got a road, which is not a problem for the municipality, but the problem is caused by Algonquin Park through logging. And we're expected to cover the full cost of the repair of that road. Another one is their boat launching ramp down here downtown. We are expected by the MNR, or Ontario Parks, to fund the full cost of maintenance, repair of that boat launching ramp, and we don't get a dime back. Now, they are making good money off that access point. And I to this day, I can't understand why we can't enter into an agreement where they pay a portion of their fees that they charge and give it back to our municipality for the maintenance of that place. Now, again, here's another one where Algonquin Park and South Algonquin would both benefit from a project, but South Algonquin are the only ones that seem to have money to fund it. And that money is going to come from our taxpayers. And to me, this is a benefit for Algonquin Park also. When we're dealing with reserves, I don't care if it's 1% or 10%. I don't like the idea of taking money out of reserves to fund projects. There's got to be some way that we can get an agreement with Parks Ontario or whatever, the government of Ontario, to help fund this project and help fund other projects in this municipality. There's got to be a way to get it. And this has been on the books for years. So I agree with Bongo. I think it's very important. Whatever we have to do, we've got to get some other funding source other than our residents. That's enough. I've said enough.
Thank you, Dave, for that input. And I think we all feel a little bit sore that it would be coming from our reserves only. Councillor Bongo, you have some input here.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Harper, for mentioning that. If there's anything I've learned in the 3 years that I've been here, it's that when we're looking at assets, who's responsible for the maintenance? To me, the precedent is set on who owns the asset and the piece of infrastructure. It's true, yes, this does, the trestle does have a relationship with Algonquin Park, but as far as I understand, the township, our township, 100% owns it, in which case my thinking guides me to say that we are responsible for it fully. My concern is that if we begin a dialogue with MNRF about this, that would further delay this project. And in my opinion, personally, I don't think that we can afford much more time to delay this. I would sooner rather bite the bullet and make this investment and accept this as a piece of infrastructure that we own, so we're responsible for it. The boat launch, and thank you, Councillor Harper, for over the years mentioning it on how it's kind of a one-sided agreement, and we're at a bit of a disadvantage because we're basically helping Algonquin Park with the boat launch. But I do think this is a little bit different because in the end, let's say if we do approach MNRF, and I could easily foresee them saying simply like, well, that's yours, and and we're not funding it, we don't have the money, so your option is to either fund it or just close it altogether. And I don't think that Algonquin Park will cease to operate. I don't think that they'll have a problem if we close the trestle because this becomes a financial issue for us. So that's why, as I just stated, I'm in favor of going ahead with this and biting the bullet. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bongo. Jane, you'd like?
Yes, just quickly. I support what Councillor Bongo was saying. It's our asset. I think the other advantage to our community, we all know that South Algonquin is a destination, and we see that with snowmobilers and ATVers and other individuals that come to enjoy the area. I think this venue will bring another group of individuals into our community that I think are very important to us and represent the more quieter side of South Algonquin, because this is not a motorized trail. There are no ATVs on it. There are no snowmobiles. So we will be bringing in the cyclers, the individuals who enjoy nature and want to travel a remote trail that brings them through Algonquin Park into South Algonquin. And I think that's very important to the diversity of our industry within the community that looks to individuals coming in to use their facilities, our resorts, motels, etc., our restaurants. So I find it quite exciting that we have this possibility, and with the Algonquin to the Adirondack group looking at the trail as well, I think that this is going to really diversify the commercial, the commercial activities of the township, and it will be a 4-season trail. It will be skiers in the winter and all the individuals that use it the other 3 seasons. So I see it as a very important asset in the township. And if we don't go ahead, we're going to lose $100,000 on our grant, if I'm not mistaken, Dave, and you can verify that for me. We have a timeline that we have. I believe we have a timeline that we have to do this in order to use those funds. And then imagine, because it will be a celebration, it will be a ministry that gave us the money that will want to show the work that was done with their $100,000 plus our contribution, of course. But I think it is a gem of South Algonquin, and this is an opportunity to enhance it and bring another group of individuals into our township. Thank you.
Perhaps we can, obviously, we have a timeline on this grant, Dave, and I'm not sure what that timeline is, but I think maybe we should be asking the park to ensure that they do the track set or the grooming for the cross-country trail if we go ahead with this, so that more people can enjoy this in the winter time. Snowshoeing, cross-country skiing. Anyone that's cross-country skied knows how beautiful Leaf Lake is, but it would be quite nice to have a track set cross-country ski route along here through the park and across that trestle. So perhaps we can politely ask that they do extend their grooming and track setting down into South Algonquin if we go ahead with this refurbishment of the bridge. Just a personal throw out there. Does anyone else have anything else more to say about this?
I would like to comment, but I'd wait till Dave answers their questions there.
Yeah, we're with respect to the timeline, funds need to be spent by fall 2023. So we do have another year. What we have in front of us is a low bidder that we've been communicating with that is still willing to do the work this season. We also have a local business owner that's made a generous offer to contribute. I don't know if we would get more favorable prices if we wait till next year, or if it's a less favorable market. I would imagine their offer would stand from our local business. We could go back to the drawing board and go back to market. That is another option, I suppose.
Thank you, Dave. What do we think about that as council here?
Chair,
Councillor Bongo, please.
Sure. I'm prepared to accept this next week. I'm prepared to vote this as soon as possible. I think it's very urgent, and I think delaying would be a major mistake, and that's my personal opinion.
Thank you. Anyone else input here?
I would like to comment.
I have to agree with Bongo. Let's get it done. If we're going to do it, let's get it done.
Thank you, Councillor Harper. And Councillor Schaller?
Yes, Dave, if we could just push the screen up or down here, push it to the top, please. Okay, right there. It said we received a $100,000 grant, correct?
Yes.
I thought, okay, if the new price comes in at, and we're going to go to reserve for, you said $100,000.
A round number. What it calculates to is 92,980. For discussion purposes, I rounded it.
Okay, well, that's 200,000, basically.
Yeah.
You're saying the project's going to cost $140,000.
140 plus engineering costs. So we have engineering costs to date because they produced drawings, produced a tender, and have done some work. And then there is some pressure treating cost to the lumber and contracts administration if we wish them to do that. That is something.
Okay, you're looking at $20,000 maximum there. So,
sorry,
$192,000 or 140,000 and 20,000. You got 11,900, then you got 2,000, then you got 3,500.
Yeah.
So if you just round that off, it's not even $20,000, and 140 is $160,000.
He's carrying a 20% contingency on this, Councillor Shalla.
Yeah, that adds up to 31,600, and then we have a portion of AST we would not get back, so beyond our rebate, which is about another $3,000.
Okay, now I want to ask you another question. I'm going to ask you another question. Would you not agree that the pressure treated that was used on the portion of it that was done with pressure treated pine the last time is in much superior condition than the hemlock?
Absolutely, and I asked that very same question when we went and looked at the bridge. It's held down with 500 or 600 spikes that would have to be manually pulled to save it. It's in such good shape it could be flipped over, providing a contractor was in agreement to pull those spikes with a large puller and reuse the lumber. I would certainly try and discuss that with them and see what kind of savings are there.
That wasn't my concern. My concern is I went prior to the construction of that bridge, I went to the Township of Erie Council meeting and suggested to them that I agreed or made the comment that I agreed with reconstructing that trestle, but I disagreed with the use of hemlock. And they used hemlock and they used pine. And it's so obvious, so early, quite a number of years ago, that the pressure treated hemlock just deteriorated because it gets a lot of wave in it and whatever, or shake. Anyway, I'm just wondering if we were to see if we could buy the pine versus using the free hemlock and have it pressure treated. If we could buy it wherever they're making wherever they're producing the pine around here, and they do cut those plantations, okay? I just think of the long term. There's a good chance that we could get 40 years out of the pine versus something that's going to start deteriorating daily using the hemlock. And when I went to the previous Township of Erie Council about this, I explained to them, because I worked in Algonquin and I seen where Algonquin switched to using hemlock to replace all their docks in the park during my employment there. And it wasn't long and they were redoing them all again. They went from cedar to hemlock, and then they had to remove them all and go back to pressure treated pine, and they held up quite good. So I just think it is something that we should really, really think seriously about. Is if we, and I think we have time, there's time available. If we were to get the pricing of the pressure treated pine, even if we had to go, you talked about, there seems like there was a feeling of going ahead with a 5% removal of 5.7% removal from our reserve fund. If we And then you talked about the 3% later. If we were agreeing to go with 5.7% removal, possibly we could still agree to do that, but yet go to pine where we might get a 40-year or longer maintenance-free project. And I fully agree that of all the reasons that have been mentioned here about how good it is and why we need this structure, but if we don't do it, we have to go to some cost to ensure that people cannot get on that structure. It isn't safe and it's deteriorating fastly and it's becoming a public safety issue. So I'm just wondering if I'm making any sense about this pressure treated, because if we're going to, and I appreciate McRae Lumber offering the hemlock for free, believe me, but at the same time, I'm just trying to think, we have to think of long term. And if we basically do a Band-Aid with hemlock, and you just agreed with me that the pine that was used is so superior in relation to the hemlock that was used, and they combined both products when they built that initially, that I think hemlock is not the way to go. It may be a quick fix, but it's a slivery product, and it just anyway, it's great maybe in the water, damp areas, but when it gets out and dries like that, in the sun, it just doesn't last. So anyway, I'd just like to know your concerns about that.
Yeah, actually, the information that I received is that hemlock that was put in 1987 was not pressure treated. So it was just bare hemlock. That was the information I received. I don't know if you have different information.
I thought it was, but anyway, the hemlock's falling apart. So
Right.
Well, and I used the example in the park of how I seen it in 10 years. It was all rotted, falling apart and slivery. And
sorry, Richard, I did ask that question of Pathways that does the pressure treating. And I asked them, if they're pressure treating hemlock, because I have never pressure treated hemlock or used it myself, just straight hemlock. And they said it's becoming quite popular and they're having great success with it. It's called a microsenna process they use now. And they said it's lasting quite good. But I agree with you, absolutely, how hemlock rots. If it's up in a dry situation, that's what's wrong with that bridge, is the exposed ends dried out.
Then would it make sense to look at what it might cost us just to buy locally pine and have it pressure treated the same way?
I do have numbers for spruce. I just don't have them in front of me because I did look at all those options, so I can pull those together and certainly get the information to council. It's the 6x6s. There's actually 175 of them, 8 feet long. So I can find out what that number is.
Well, there's the decking on top of that, and there's the railings, and if we want to do a job, we want to have a good job and be proud of it, and we want it to last a long time. And that's certainly an asset to our community. And I agree with what Councillor Bongo had to say earlier, and I believe another councillor. It is one of our assets. We should look after it. And but anyway, I would just like us to maybe take another look at another avenue. If it costs us a little bit more money, I think the cost over a 40-year period may be well worth it.
Thank you, Councillor Schaller, for that. I pardon my ignorance here, but the other wood mill that we have in the township, do they not do the pine that we're talking about here? Could they not be approached and see if they would not donate, maybe, if they're not able to, but actually offer it to the township at a reduced amount because it's a community project or a township project? or am I incorrect in thinking that they do not work with the pine?
Murray's cut a lot of pine.
Thank you, Richard. That was what I thought.
But regardless of where we bought it, if we looked at Oakham's or wherever, and I'm just thinking if we look at the price of the pine, whether we got it from a mill or we got it in if we got it planed or wherever it came from, what is the difference? If we just, I just feel, I'd feel more comfortable if we took a look at just the cost of changing that material.
Okay, thank you for that, Richard. I mean, is it possible, Dave, that you could approach Murray's and see if they would, one, give you a quote for the price, and maybe just throw out there that McRae's were prepared to offer it free of charge? Would they reduce the costing accordingly? Just my thoughts on that for Murray's.
I can certainly, make the material list available, and then maybe I can have a discussion with Brian on how best the township, approach local business, and what's most appropriate for who is most appropriate for it to come from.
Okay.
Even if we buy it, what's the difference in the cost? That's what I'm getting at. What's the difference if we had to buy it?
I can make those numbers available, and I could circulate them if that's acceptable.
I'd appreciate that. I think that's the way we should go. Wouldn't you agree, based on of what the material is in front of you there? The present bridge, how one product is rotted and the other one hasn't?
If I had to pick, I would go with Douglas fir. Second choice would be SPF, pressure treated. And, third choice is hemlock because it's readily available and it's a more economical wood. The only difference is I received some information that I could actually probably get in writing about how well pressure treated hemlock stands up. I have no personal experience using it, but I could probably get some information from Pathways, which might help set people's minds at ease.
Thank you, Dave. I think that would be valuable. And I do believe that we should be maybe approaching our other wood mill in the township, not wanting to slur McRae's at all because it's very generous, but we do have 2 wood mills in our township, and maybe it would be good for Murray's to be approached and give them a chance to contribute to the township in a way that could obviously be advertised to their benefit. Thank you. If no one else has any more to say about that, let's move on to the vacancy that we have in Dickens Ward. And Brian, can I ask you what sort of responses we have there and how we're going to go ahead to fill that vacancy as soon as possible? I know there has been a letter from, I believe, the president of the Alien Lake community requesting that the person selected at least lives in the area because only people living there seem to know what's going on. Can I pass that over to you, Brian, please? Thank you.
Okay, Brian's muted.
Sorry about that. I'll go over this really quickly. We have in fact have had 3 applicants to date, and I stand to be corrected, but I believe all 3 are from Dickens Ward. The legislation doesn't prohibit anyone from anywhere else in putting their name forward. Selection process is kind of up to council. I did send out a bit of a questionnaire that you could use. That said, if you choose not to, and council just wanted to each pick a couple of questions that they wanted to ask the individual, I would expect we're going to need to set a time and place specific for doing this. Because it's a councillor, I don't believe there is any need for us to close doors like we would for staff. but certainly, we can do this in an open forum on another YouTube channel through Zoom, bring them all in through Zoom. Independently, individually, and do the interviewing with them. And I'm just looking for some guidance. Do you want to do that post a regular meeting? Do you want to do it at another day? Of course, we've given them till the end of this month to close that. And then whether or not we're going to use the questions I suggested, they're not hard and fast, and I can change them, or whether you'd prefer to do more of a each councillor asking a couple of questions of their own.
Brian, I think it's Richard. I think you, if they submitted their name based on the questions that you had, a vote's generally in secret. And I personally think that we should select them based on what they tell us in their submission. And it might just be better in the long run. If we could do this more as a council versus more as a candidate and council. I just would feel more comfortable if we just council was aware, we reviewed whatever they submitted and select them based on that. And I think that's how it was done in the past.
Okay, Councillor Bongo, you have input here.
Thank you so much, Chair. Brian, I love the idea. I absolutely love the idea of what you just pitched, an open interview where the public can view who the candidates are, if this is permitted, because I know when we're hiring staff, that's a lot more confidential. But if this could be done in a public forum, I think that would be absolutely fantastic. The public would have the chance to see who the candidates are. And on top of that, we would also be able to see how the candidates perform on this technological forum that we're using here on Zoom. And I think for us as councillors that are deciding upon this appointment, I think that would really provide us a lot of valuable information behind the candidates' competency being public speakers. And I fully respect Councillor Shala's opinion that the cover letter and resume might be enough. For me personally, I would feel a lot more comfortable and confident making an appointment decision if we have both of those things, the cover letter and the resume, and on top of that, the questions that are asked by us councillors in some form of a public interview process. I would be very eager to set that up as soon as possible, so long as the majority of council agrees. And well, what does everybody else think?
Thank you for that, Councillor Bongo. I do agree with you somewhat. I think the presence on a Zoom meeting and their diction and how they deliver themselves is very important, especially in this technological era that we find ourselves in. Whether or not, though, 3 candidates would be prepared to be exposed to the public, knowing that 2 of them, possibly even 3, but 2 of them most definitely are not going to be selected. I'm not sure whether or not that they would be prepared to do that. What does anybody else think about that? When you apply for a job, you don't always want to let everybody know that you're the one that didn't get the job. I think it's a little bit
I agree.
of a difficult situation. Does anyone else want to weigh in on this here? Jane, please go ahead.
Sandra, I think you've raised really important points, and none of us were shining stars when we started on Zoom, I guess, other than Councillor Bongo. And I think that could be quite intimidating for some people. And I think we have to be respectful of as you say, there are 3 people so far. There might be more by the end of the month. And some of those individuals may not even want people, as you say, to know that they are doing this at this point in time, because perhaps they want it as an experience to maybe put their name forward at the next municipal election next year. So I'm a little leery of doing putting people in that situation of being part of a discussion that is viewed by and recorded on YouTube and open to the public. I don't know that I would support that process.
Thank you, Jane, for that. Does anybody else want to weigh in here apart from Councillor Bongo?
Sandra, Chair, could I ask
Please.
you a question?
Please do, yes.
When you first joined council,
Yes.
you were selected from your submission, correct?
Yes, I believe that was the case.
Yes.
And then I was interviewed by council, but only after I'd been selected as the probable one to succeed. I think that's the best way of putting it here. But I was actually then interviewed by council, and then you went away and made your decision accordingly. But I believe that I was selected from my submission letter. I think there were about 10 people put in a submission letter, and that was obviously discussed at council, and I was selected and then interviewed. I don't believe anyone else was interviewed. I may be incorrect here. I'm not 100% sure what happened. Can anybody else elicit the information there, Jane? Perhaps.
Just a quick caution. We've got 3 minutes left on our time for the meeting. We may have to go off and go back on again.
Okay. Jane, were any other potential candidates interviewed by council? Do you recall?
No, I don't think so. We, as Richard said, we got the written submission, we read them, we evaluated them, we prioritized, I think maybe at least 2 individuals with a first and second, and then did the interview and, and chose you as a successful candidate at that point in time. I think, time is of the essence. We'd like to get someone at the table as soon as possible. So, I would recommend that we go, as Richard suggested, get a cover letter from the individuals, make them available to council. We could choose a date, maybe at our council meeting on the 1st when we could get those. And I don't imagine, maybe they would even be ready after our council meeting at that point in time to be distributed. And then we could have a decision hopefully by the end of next week, or at the end of the, well, I don't know. It depends. That our council meeting's on the 1st. That's the long weekend. Maybe realistic looking after the long weekend. I don't know. We could discuss that.
Thank you, Jane. Councillor Bongo, very quickly, because I think we're running out of time here.
Sure. Yes. I was just going to say, if the majority of council does not want to do an open public interview process, I would strongly recommend that at the very least we do interviews in a private setting. Again, as a decision maker, I would feel a lot more comfortable and confident making my decision when I have the written application in addition to that interview process as well. So I really hope that that's what we decide doing. And I'm sure that we can organize that in a pretty timely fashion as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bongo. How are we doing for time? Can we mention signage and Muskoka chairs, Brian, or are we running out?
Can I suggest that we delay it until the council meeting, that new signage and Muskoka chairs until next week, council meeting?
That seems fine with me. What about you, Brian? Is that okay for us to do that?
Yeah, that's fine. It's items that Councillor Bongo brought forward, so I'll move them forward to our September 1st agenda.
Okay, thank you. Can I have someone to propose our adjournment then? Councillor Bongo, seconded by Mayor Dumas. Thank you very much, everybody. Lengthy meeting, but lots of good discussion. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Right.
Thank you, everyone. I apologize that we ran out of time. Next time I'll add 4 hours instead of 3.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.